Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fox 10 Talks on this Monday. I'm Ellen McNamara, and you guys know who this guy is.
Marc Martinez joining Ellen here for Fox 10 Talks. Today we got a lot to talk about, Ellen.
We do. We have a jam-packed show, actually, for this Monday. We are talking about interest rates, and there is so much anticipation about what is going to be happening this week in general. Yeah,
the Fed meeting tomorrow and Wednesday to talk about possibly lowering interest rates. We've been hearing a lot about that for quite a while. There is some speculation they could be talking about 25 basis points lowering the interest rates right now. That would be good news for a lot of people who are maybe in the market to buy a home. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're selling a home, man, you really want to sell your home. And kind of right now, there's just kind of like a stagnant market right now. So yeah, that could be certainly positive news if you're trying to sell a home, or maybe if you're trying to buy a home, trying to lock that interest rate a little bit lower. And then a little bit later on in the program, we're also going to be talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination. There's a vigil happening at ASU. There was a big turning point chapter at ASU. We're going to check in with Nicole Christine. And we're also going to talk about security just at the national level for congressional members, because there is a serious concern. I mean, Charlie Kirk was not even an elected official. Right. And considering what happened to him, but now a lot of members of Congress are saying we need tighter security. Yeah, they're talking about $60 million roughly for more security for the federal and executive and legislative branches. Yeah. So we'll talk about that too. But let's get back to interest rates real quick, and let's check in with our expert that we're going to talk to today, Bankrate financial analyst Stephen Cates. Stephen, thanks for joining us. What are you expecting, or do you have any idea what we could expect from the Fed meeting tomorrow and Wednesday?
Certainly. So the big event is going to be Wednesday, when the Fed announces their decision and has a press conference afterwards. What we're expecting is a quarter point rate cut, the 25 basis points you talked about, which is likely to be the first of many. We may see 2 additional cuts later this year, and we may see more of them coming in 2026. So what kind of is your message if someone is, looking to buy a home, looking to sell a home? I mean, there has been a lot of discussion about, anticipation, I guess I should say, that, hey, the Fed's going to cut, wait, maybe you should wait. Maybe you should wait to lock it in. And then maybe there are going to be additional cuts later on and later on. So how long do you wait? So how long do you wait? That's the big question. So that's a really tricky decision. And for people who are trying to buy, you can't always time this perfectly to the point where you wait for the ideal interest rate and then you pounce. Sometimes you find the house soon and you need to decide right then and there. But one of the things that's important is the best time to buy, especially something large like a home, is when you can afford it. So if you're prepared with a down payment, you have the cash flow to cover the mortgage payment, then trying to be too cute about waiting for the exact right interest rate can sometimes leave you wanting, where you don't get the house at all. So there is the opportunity for existing homeowners or even future homeowners to refinance down the line. And there's a lot of people now sort of probably salivating over this, because interest rates were as high as 7% in January. They're now closer to about 6.3%. So we've already come down a good ways. And if we go down further, that is going to unlock a lot of opportunity for refinancing.
Yeah, Stephen, we were looking at some videos from our Fox 10 vault here from 1980 and 1981. They were talking about interest rates in 81. The reporter said 17% for a conventional loan at that time, and I think it was about 16% for an FHA. Yeah. Crazy to think about interest rates that high. Obviously,
it is. It's a world away.
Yeah, we never want to get back to that. But when you kind of put that in perspective, how low do you think we could go as far as getting the interest rates down, and when would that really have an impact for homeowners?
So I think people are going to need to be patient and also frame this within the context of what's normal. The rates that we had, in the early 2020s, where people had 30-year mortgage rates at 2.5% or even 3.5%, that's probably not coming back. Honestly, that was a little bit manufactured because of the crisis. We're probably going to be in a situation where rates are going to come down from where they are today in the mid 6s to something that might be around 4.5% to 5.5%. And that is a very normal long-term rate for a 30-year mortgage. It's just not likely that we're going to get back to a situation as low as the 2s and the 3s without us having a crisis, and we really don't want that.
We always hear that you should marry the home, date the rate. Do you subscribe to that?
Well, I think so. I think that, there are some people that jumped into a home with the expectation that they could quickly refinance. And obviously we've had rates higher than a lot of people expected for a lot longer than we expected. And that's caused some problems for people who may have tried to reach a little high in terms of the monthly payment, thinking that they'd be able to refinance quickly. So it's important that you make sure that you can afford the home and the payment at the time that you get it. Now, that's kind of what I was getting at about the ability to try, make a move when you can afford it. And if that's now, then there isn't a reason to wait on buying a home. But don't overextend yourself to the point where, you're putting yourself in a position where you're at financial risk by carrying a mortgage payment that you really can't afford, because we don't really know what the future is going to hold, how long rates are going to be, as high as they are, when they're going to come down, or how quickly they're going to come down. So that kind of prediction is a little bit dangerous if people are overextending themselves for a home or a monthly payment that they simply can't afford.
That they think that they may in the future be able to refinance. But again, that is speculation. That is not guaranteed. And I think for people who have a 3% interest rate who got locked in several years back, they probably don't want to do anything. They're going to just sit on that mortgage for that percentage rate because, as you mentioned, that's likely not coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's contributing to part of what we're seeing in the housing market, where this lock-in effect, where people who have very low mortgages are unsure of what to do, even as they outgrow these homes. There are a number of young families who have grown bigger. They need more room or they want more space, and they simply feel unable to make a move because home prices are higher than when they last bought. Mortgage rates are much higher, and they're priced out. And so they're kind of stuck in a home that maybe doesn't fit them anymore. And that's creating a lot of problems in the home market because that supply isn't unlocked when people don't move.
Something, too, that I think is important to point out is that when we mention that interest rates are 6.3%, that is if you have good credit. That is if you have, 700 something on a credit score. So that's not necessarily, for everybody, correct?
That's correct. And these are averages that we're talking about. Different parts of the country, different banks are going to offer different rates. And sometimes you can buy down rates with points, and, there's teasers and there's promotions, and, banks are competing for your business. So there are opportunities to try to find good deals. But your credit, your ability to pay, the amount that you can put down, all of these are going to impact the rate that you ultimately get. So we're talking in averages, we're talking in a bit generalities, and the specifics of your financial situation is going to greatly impact exactly how much you get and how much you might be paying.
Yeah, that whole thing about being prepared if you're going to be buying a house, make sure you've got everything in line. If your credit is cleaned up and you've got everything ready to go, because, if you've got to make a quick decision, you need to make sure you have all of that ready to go and can qualify for the best loan possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you guys have any questions for Stephen, by the way, we have the chat open now. So
yeah,
we've got questions.
Yeah, please do. I mean, if you guys any questions about rates, any questions about potentially what the Fed might be doing this week, put them up in the chat. You can do that, and he can answer them, and we'll put it out there for him. Do we have that soundbite? Did we want to air the soundbite?
We do, yeah.
Air? And so, Stephen, for context, this is an old report from 1980. Way back machine. We're going to play it for you, so listen to that, and we can kind of get a good laugh about it. But honestly, it's just great perspective.
The cost of buying a house has literally shot through the roof. Over the weekend, FHA VA mortgages climbed to 13.5% interest. Conventional loans now carry from 14 to 14.75% interest.
You can afford less and less of a house as the mortgage rates go up, because the mortgage company looks at your total monthly spendable income and will figure a certain percent of that is allowable as a housing expense. And for every point that mortgage interest goes up, that's a little less of a home that they'll qualify you for.
Another way of putting it is that the higher the mortgage interest rate, the fewer number of people who can afford to buy a home. But the current economic situation presents a real dilemma to the potential home buyer. If you buy now, your monthly payments will be high. But if you wait, the cost of housing continues to rise.
if we continue to have housing price appreciation like we're having it right now, which is in excess of 18.5% a year, in 4.5 years, the average price of a home is going to be nearly $150,000. And waiting for mortgage rates to drop is not going to help you enough to make that wait worthwhile.
Salespeople say the high interest rates are taking a bite out of their business, but they also say it's better to buy now than wait for rates to go
Well,
down.
Stephen, you probably just heard that. It's sort of like what we were just talking about, except for the interest rates being a lot higher than we are seeing right now. But that was from 1980, and then the next year we had one. That is when she said 17%. So they went up even from that 14.5% after that story.
And inflation was like 10% too. So, I mean, not only did you have horrible inflation, but you also had high interest rates. So it was like, you might as well just put your house on a credit card. I mean, that's basically what people were doing. Now, mind you, the cost of a home back then was
he
like
said 150,000 was
correct,
the median. So
150,000. So that's a little bit different. I think the same neighborhood now is like $1 million.
Yes.
So again, some perspective.
And you're anxiously waiting for Wednesday, and we'll probably check back in with you then. We're expecting, again, just to recap this, 25 basis point reduction in the interest rates, correct? Or that's what we're thinking.
That's what we're expecting. Yes, I think that there was a chance, and there may be some dissent within the Federal Reserve over whether it should be a 50 basis point or 0.5% rate cut. I think that it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. Odds of that are very low. It's simply just going to be too much too fast.
Yeah. Well, in our chat, that's what Ashley said. She said interest rates should be cut by 0.5%, but again, probably not likely to happen. Stephen, we really appreciate you being with us and kind of sharing your knowledge with us, and we'll wait and see what happens with the Fed on Wednesday.
Yeah, Stephen Cates with Bankrate Financial. Thank you so much for joining us on Fox 10 Talks. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen.
My pleasure. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay.
It is so great to see these older stories that we have in the Fox 10 archives.
Oh, yeah.
For just perspective, history, and to see kind of the more things change, the more they stay the same.
They do. And, that was Peter Van Zandt. And Peter Van Zandt is one of the big timers who went through Fox 10 and he went through CBS News.
48 hours.
48 hours. He's still working at CBS News now. Yeah.
I wonder if he knows that we're using his old stories a lot because he was covering everything. So we've got more to come after the break. We're going to check in with Nicole Christine at the ASU Vigil for Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk security as well. So stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for joining us again here on Fox 10 Talks. The big story, of course, continues to be the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. And tonight there's going to be a vigil at ASU to honor his life and to remember Charlie.
Right. And Charlie Kirk, of course, started Turning Point USA. And Turning Point has chapters on college campuses all across the country. A large chapter is on the ASU campus. And that is where we find now Nicole Christine. And Nicole, you are there previewing the vigil for us tonight.
Yeah, that's right, guys. So we are outside of the north side of Desert Financial Arena. You can see there are some people already lining up. There's some other people that are lining up on the south entrance as well. I believe that's where a lot of the students will be entering. We were looking at this earlier, and Desert Financial Arena has the capacity of about 14,000 people. And what we had heard today was that there is already about 10,000 people at least signed up to come in. So we are expecting big crowds. People are starting to line up behind me here on the north side. And we're seeing people who have brought crosses. You could probably see this large one behind me. Yesterday at the Turning Point headquarters, I actually met a man from Michigan who had brought, that might be his cross there. He's been walking around today. So people traveling from all over the country to come here and be amongst other supporters and mourners. And I think we're going to have quite the crowd here on ASU's campus tonight. Doors open for people 4:30. Remarks start at 5:30, and everything should be wrapped up in about 2 hours.
Any idea, Nicole, who is going to be speaking? Is his wife? Do you know if his wife is going to show up by any chance?
So I had the same question you had, Ellen. I actually contacted one of the people with Turning Point, who is one of our contacts tonight. I haven't heard back yet. I think they're probably busy setting up a little bit. But I think there's a lot of possibilities. I'm sure there will be representation from the Turning Point chapter here at ASU. I wouldn't be surprised if there were quite a few college age and young speakers. We've talked to a couple of former students already out here that got out here really early, and they said they wanted to come back to share in this moment on this campus. So I'm expecting to see some young speakers. I'm not sure if Erica's set to speak. I'm not sure what other maybe local representatives or lawmakers, anybody like that might speak. But with such a big crowd prepared and with the notice that we've gotten about this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some prominent speakers here tonight.
Nicole, can you talk at all about any security out there? Is it enhanced, or do you know what they're doing with people who are going in? Are they screening them at all?
Yeah, so it's very high security, which, as you can imagine, is going to be the norm moving forward. I think from what we've heard from security experts and people like that, you know, what happened last week on top of what happened last year with Trump, on top of what happened in Minnesota, just these outside areas. This is an indoor area, but even then, screening top of mind for people. So one thing we can say as media is that when we come and we're having trouble finding spots and access to park, that's when you know that they've got it locked down quite a bit. We're normally able to get pretty close access to events and parking. And tonight there's a lot of top security. I'm actually seeing, I'll turn the camera around right now. Let's see if I can do that for you. Because take a look here. We've got some security, some police officers here. And then over here, I will tell you that the security over here is pretty normal. This is where a lot of the media is going to be coming in as well. So we have our own screening process. But on the other side, there was quite a few security guards near the south entrance, even further from the stadium or from the arena, kind of even closer. So yeah, heavy security, as you can imagine. Yesterday at Turning Point headquarters, heavy security, the roads blocked off by Phoenix police. So it seems anything that's in this realm is going to be getting that additional security, additional bodies for any sort of public event like this.
Yeah. Okay. Nicole, thank you for checking in with us and joining us before that vigil starts tonight at ASU campus.
Yeah, and of course, we'll have your coverage later on tonight at 4 and 5 and 6 on Fox 10. Thanks so much, Nicole. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Yep. Nicole talked a lot about it there. Security is going to change dramatically. Already has, in fact, since what happened with Charlie Kirk and the attempted assassination of President Trump in Butler. Hearing a lot about these outdoor events, perhaps not going to be a thing anymore.
Yeah, you know, I spoke with Frank Boudreau Jr. We've talked to him a few times in the past based on some of these things that you just mentioned that have happened. And he is a former Secret Service agent. He protected President Trump. He actually protected the Bush family too. And he has always talked about the risks of these outdoor venues and how difficult it is to protect someone at an outdoor venue. And he said indoor venues are so much better from a security standpoint. And then today we just read this headline that the White House is requesting $58 million now to increase security for executive judicial branches after the Kirk shooting. And Dr. Alex Del Carmen, he is joining us now. He's a criminologist and a consultant. He has over 25 years of experience working with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. So, Alex, you know exactly what you're talking about. And, reading that headline, does it surprise you that members of Congress are on edge right now based on what happened last week, but also just in general, just the political climate that we are living in right now?
Well, thanks for having me. No, it's not surprising at all. I mean, the reality is that for some of us in criminology, the question has been for some time, how come they had to wait this long for this to happen, right? If you think about the political rhetoric across the United States, it stands to reason that political electees or individuals that are serving our government should have that type of protective detail that is necessary.
It's such an interesting thing because when you are an elected official, Charlie Kirk, of course, was not an elected official, but when you are, part of the point is that you want to be with your constituents or at least have access to them and them have access to you. But the more we're seeing these events that are happening, it is going to be cutting off a lot of that access, especially when we talk about things like town halls or community meetings or things like that. The security definitely needs to be stepped up.
Well, not only that, I can tell you from the security protocol that we all follow right in the industry of criminology and some of the things that I've done throughout my career, we always tell those political dignitaries, that they're going to have a certain space between them and the people that voted for them. This is never a good conversation to have because I know that they really resist the idea of being away from their constituents. But now it has become so dangerous that the best way to really carve that out is to be able to say, look, this is for the benefit of yourself, your family, and those that voted for you that still want you to remain in office.
And we saw that with Gabby Giffords in Tucson in 2011. She was having a Congress on the Corner event down there when she was shot, and a lot of other victims there as well who died as a result of that. After that, we thought we may see fewer of these outdoor events and things like that. They started coming back into fashion. What do you advise about that? Outdoor versus indoor?
Well, anytime you have an outdoor event is obviously going to be incredibly difficult to protect, right? Because you have to worry about snipers, you have to worry about drones. These days, you have to worry about things that you may not have been adequately, fully understanding of at the time that a sweep or two are made. I know that whenever we think about, say, the president or the vice president or congressmen or women that are coming into a building, the most dangerous part of their journey is going to be from their vehicle into a building, especially if this is done outside. So whenever you see Secret Service that doubles up on their security on these dignitaries anytime they're outside is for a reason. And that is that it is an incredibly easy target to be able to have, and then sadly, a very difficult one to protect.
So are these private security firms now? I mean, obviously, if you're an elected official, you have access to some of that security. But if you're a private security firm, do you feel like this is probably a good field to be in right now?
There's no question. Unfortunately, as I often said before, being a criminologist, I joined, the field of criminology 27 years ago because I liked it. I had no idea that it was going to be the conversation that we were going to have between the weather and sports on a daily basis in a newscast, right? And so I think that a lot of these private firms, especially those that are legitimate, that are coming, that are made up of former military people that are perhaps retirees from the FBI or Secret Service, they're going to be incredibly engaged in the next few years because this is only going to get worse before it gets better.
And again, the Trump administration asking Congress for $58 million to protect members of the executive and legislative branches. It seems like if you're in D.C., you're going to be seeing black SUVs 10 times that you see currently with all of this extra security for these members of these branches.
I was just in DC 48 hours ago, and I can tell you that you already see that in Washington, except that now it's going to be even worse, as per your question, right? Because of the fact that you're going to have every single member of Congress have some sort of a security detail, and they're going to be assessing those that perhaps are in critical committees.
And then if you talk about, the members of the House, 435 members, Congress, 100, I mean, just fathoming that is almost unbelievable. I remember years ago when John McCain came here to Fox 10 for an interview, and I was shocked because he drove himself here and didn't have security. And he was John McCain, the United States Senator. That has all changed now, right, Alex?
There's no question. I mean, I think the accessibility that we had to politicians, a number of years ago is gone. Yeah. And it really started changing, believe it or not with Kennedy's assassination, but it really started changing with Reagan's, attempts that they had on his life. We began to rethink what security should look like for a lot of these folks. And nowadays, given the internet, the accessibility to people that are being radicalized, there is no question that things have changed and are changing.
Yeah, I think with the internet too, I mean, you worry about if you're running for political office and you have a family, you can get doxxed. I mean, all that information is out there. It's very easy to obtain. And I mean, do you feel like that if you are a smart, potentially political, maybe you would like to run for political office, that will dissuade someone from running for political office because of just the climate that we live in right now?
And we have about 1 minute left, so if you can
there's no question. I think what's going to happen is, family members are going to come in essentially to their rescue and say to you, please don't run, because if you're not, you may be a victim at some point.
Yeah, that is a sad state of affairs. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Alex Del Carmen, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your insight into this today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that yesterday about private security firms. I mean, if you're former military, former law enforcement, maybe thinking of retirement or something like that, you're going to have a job as long as you want one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, again, the need to protect these people, it's not going to go away anytime soon.
Sadly, no.
No.
So that was interesting to hear from him about that. And we'll see what happens with that request for the money. But I have a feeling this is a bipartisan
It's going to be
issue.
a rubber stamp.
This is not,
no problem.
Yes, this is not partisan. This is everyone saying, in light of what happened and what has continued to happen, we need to do something about it. And if money helps, that's going to be great.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
No doubt. I want to thank you for joining us here on Fox 10 Talks for the 3 o'clock show. The two of us, Christina and John, are both out today.
Yes, they're out.
So we are filling in on Fox 10 at 4 o'clock. We hope that you will join us.
You're going to get a lot of us today, just warning.